are regular extensions, so for executables, PDF files, documents, stuff like that. And there are fileless bypasses, which we have covered in the previous webinars, which obviously you should always go to the webinar videos and search for that here. This is very important to me, for example, like this one, for example. These webinars give you great foundations for when it comes to screen sharing, because some of those webinars also explain rules to you, so how exactly they work and how exactly you should be applying them. And then what you should recall when you are screen sharing is what can get me to that detection faster than anything else. The wrong approach, so screen sharing or inspection, has basically been revolutionized or changed. What it does, I notice in every screen share that every other person has done, that they start by first looking for evidence of execution before they look for files. I think that is a mistake, because that shows you that you are going with the methods rather than the applications themselves. Going forward with the methods or following the methods is great, of course, but here's what you should do first. First of all, you should take snapshots, you should take logs, and you should also acquire everything statically that might be useful for your screen sharing purposes. So this webinar is going to be about screen sharing in tournaments. So very important stakes at hand. Screen sharing in tournaments means that you guys have at least 2 hours to finalize the screen share, which is why you should be using the first 20 to 30 minutes gathering or acquiring static evidence on the devices. So let's begin what we are gonna do with this first. So we have in the, I forget which one it is. I think it is in for starters, maybe recovery, file recovery. No. Oh, and by the way, you can also check the videos in behavioral analysis. So, for example, those are actual webinars themselves too. I think I found it. Common bypasses. There's also these. There's also pro soloing explained, but this is just a theoretical part. We're gonna get into that very soon. There's also around webinars. Let's see. Where do we have it? Maybe it's in popular. Yeah, okay, it's in popular. Go to FTK Imager. This will be very useful, because what you're gonna do now is gather artifacts. So I'm gonna teach you exactly what to do, so how to set up a research. Should I watch this even if I don't really want to screen share someone later? I don't really want to. Yes, of course, because I'm teaching you forensics. However, I'm teaching you acquisition, and then we're also gonna learn how to analyze or look for files on the device. So think of this as a manual malware detection. So this would be very useful, even if you don't really do screen sharing, which is better than actually learning this for screen sharing only. So the first thing you should do is you should create or have just how to gather evidence from a bypass origin. Yes, exactly. It is very, very useful. So install FTK Imager. But before installing FTK Imager, the first thing you guys should do is, yes, exactly, not only in real world, this can actually help you detect malware on your device even without an antivirus. So it is useful to learn things like this. So first of all, FTK Imager, installing FTK Imager is very important, of course, but there are 2 things you should keep in mind before installing FTK Imager. First of all, what are the most sensitive artifacts or the memory artifacts that we have on Windows? The most sensitive artifact or memory artifact we have is the process memory or random access memory, so RAM dumps. I wouldn't suggest that you guys dump the RAM itself as well. However, that is also very useful, which is what I'm gonna do right now. You can use FTK Imager to dump RAM, or you can also use other methods to dump the RAM, so random access memory of an application. What you can do here is that first of all, You can also export directory listing, which is quite useful if they have, let's say, I'm gonna export these directories. If they have hidden folders, if they have hidden files, if they have, so this was a file system progress. So this is going to give you shellbacks. Let's just call these shellbacks. It's gonna give you everything that is on the system. That's why it takes some time. So let's also wait for this to finish this. We also need Timeline Explorer. So the first tool you should be downloading is FTK Imager, because this allows you to capture everything on the device. But besides FTK Imager, what I suggest to do when you do before screen share, not screen share, but before FTK Imager, is to capture the process memory, so that FTK Imager doesn't override or do something with it, because sometimes they do have bypasses with FTK Imager. Maybe they just use the executable itself to replace it. I'm gonna look for magnet process capture. Do I even have this? Probably don't. Probably don't have this. Okay, yeah, I don't. But okay, you can send me the link here directly, because it's gonna be useful for everyone, to be honest. Right, so as you see, this takes a long time, because we are creating a directory listing, so it's on 40% right now. The reason it takes so much time is because a new learn class, all good. The reason here is that this is actually creating all the, yes, exactly, this process capture. It's very useful, it's very important. So this is what you should do before the Imager, or you can also reverse it. And ChatGPT, that's actually so nice. Did it actually find this? That's crazy. Okay. Wow, that's actually crazy. So we have this, then we have also, you can also export all of these, extract all, let's do it here, and we're gonna, so first of all, you also need a separate folder. What I recommend you do is that you should create a folder in downloads, at least. Let's do see the downloads or in system that too also works, but make directory, and call these analysis or SS1, whatever you want. So there is a folder now called analysis. This is where you will keep everything. So all of your files, all of your executables are gonna be here. So that it's easier to erase them, so to delete them after the screen share. So magnet process capture is going to capture every administrative process, which means that it doesn't have a download on SS. Yes, exactly. So the thing is, this captures all the processes that are not kernel protected. So this will not capture to do it in like C. I don't, you can do wherever you want. I use downloads because this is the most, you know, everything goes in downloads, so sometimes you can put it easily in downloads itself. But yeah, I also do CS as well, so it doesn't really matter. Here's the thing. What magnet process capture doesn't do is that it doesn't capture beyond administrative processes. So CSRSS, for example, which is the most used process, anything that requires kernel is not being captured by this. Another thing I recommend you do is also disable Chrome. So those processes, just sometimes, yes, contrabando, yes, exactly. Just sometimes what this is going to do, also disable CND. What this is going to do, selecting those, is that it will give you false positives on, for example, accessing or executed downloaded malware or downloaded files. So there's that. Also disable Discord. This is also going to give you false positives. And well, also it's privacy invasive. Also disable search everything, because we don't want that NFT in here. You can also disable Explorer if you want, but I will keep that one, because it's very useful. Right, so let me see. The message review. This one isn't related to the browser itself, so you can keep this on. Um, but that will also not really help you at all. Alright, with that being said, you can start to explore the extraction. You can also monitor everything that's going on and select the output folder using, in our cases, downloads. One project, yes, because it's a drive and it might have. You don't really do much because sometimes if it is protected, you can't really access it from memory, but it's useful. So if you already have files or folders specifically imported in Timeline Explorer, you should disable this too. Well, there's not really that much. So you should also disable this if you already imported something here. In my case, I didn't really do that, but I will still disable Timeline Explorer. So do this before FTK Imager. It also takes less time, so it's very fast too. And I'm gonna teach you guys actually something very funny about this. Very funny about this. First step then, yes. This is the first step that I do. At least I used to do, at least in very important tournaments and challenges. It's a very important thing. The next thing you do, obviously, is FTK Imager, but this one is going to take hours. So 34 for the directory file listing. Yes, I want to cancel this. Yes, I want to cancel this. Okay. Directory listing is not gonna really do much. It don't really give you something insane because this one. So I'm gonna give you a showcase of what that actually gathers. So the directories gathers a lot of information. Think of it as MFT extraction. Isn't like that from access data unstable. It is very useful, but the difference is actually now that you mention this, I think you guys should not use FTK Imager. Do you know why? Because FTK Imager doesn't have. There's a better version. There's a better version. There's a better alternative. The version of access. No, it's fine. That's not why I said. Here's the thing. So as you can see here, this just listed all of the directories in a very vague manner. So you don't really need this. Here's the thing. Instead of using FTK Imager, which doesn't capture Boolem shadow copies, you can use OS Forensics. I completely forgot about this, but you should do this. Always install and use OS Forensics. Because I'm going to show you why exactly you would want to do this. This is going to be a highly forensic analysis. OS Forensics going to say, yes, exactly, but you should be careful. Be careful with what you click. Don't click Map Viewer. Okay? Don't do that. Just don't do that, okay? Also don't do this email viewer. Don't do thumb cache viewer. So okay, let me show you exactly what you should never click. First of all, never, yeah exactly. And that happens more than you can imagine. Never click map viewer, never click email browser, never click thumb cache viewer. Also never click, where are those? Where is this? It's somewhere here. There's also a script player, which is very interesting, because what you guys can do, actually, with this, I have developed open source Python scripts, and you can basically run that here, and actually use it in the screen share itself. So this comes with Python too, so that's crazy. This is a crazy thing. Also don't do export cloud email. Never do this. Also don't do export cloud drive. Although this is gonna be very useful when they use for icons. No. Thumb cache. This thumb cache also has screenshots of the device. Because when you scan this, there are databases of the device called thumb cache. So let's see, in my case, icon cache and thumb cache, okay? Icon cache is fine, yeah. Do you see icons? Yeah, okay. Icon cache is fine because this shows you just what icons they have. Thumb cache, on the other hand, is not fine, right? You just don't do this. It's very invasive. Very invasive. So that's not what you would want to do. Also, if you're viewing the icon caches, you can make sure to also, yeah, so make sure to also just do this plus and this, because Yeah, because it shows you all the databases that might have those features, but never click on thumbnail view when you go to authentications accidentally, because it automatically views them, doesn't it say? So don't do that. Also, don't try to not click all of any of those. Those are just maybe sometimes crash your application. Don't do remote acquisition, although this requires you to also specify where you want to acquire everything. So don't do that. Everything else is fine. For example, analyzing shadow copies is very important and very useful. Okay, so let's go back to the topic. Also don't do Android artifacts, because you will have to password is fine. Don't do that either. You get the point, right? So look at this, right? If you dump the entire RAM of the device, and if you dump, maybe they have their phone connected, if you dump that, this will allow you to extract messages, SMS, contacts, conversations. This is photos as well, so don't do that. Don't do stupid things, basically. Let's not go to Samsung quite my friends this sort of token. No, it's not nice, but crazy. Anyway, now that we have all of those formalities from here, so we have all of the processes right here. Okay, process dump is over here. Okay, this also gives you the date when it was specifically acquired. We have the process dumps. Now we need the artifact extractions. The artifact, you can extract artifact by memory viewer by using memory viewer itself. You can either dump there's clinical static analysis, you can do that. It's not this actually, I think it's file system browser, is it this one? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it is this one. So what you need to do here is to, by the way, this allows you to view INetPub 2, so the things we talked about previously. And also allows you to analyze shadow copies. So if you just do these, if you just, analyze things. So you need MFT, but I don't think this is my MFT. What is it? What is it 2022? Have I had this for how long? Wow, okay, that's crazy. Okay, I don't think this is not supposed to be from 2022. This is not supposed to be from there. But okay, so this also allows you to review the system volume information, which is, date of creation, but this is from 2022. This is crazy. Okay, but basically, just export NFT. And come to think of it, if you actually install OS Forensics, all you have to do is just click on user activity, select all, well, except for some, and just to create a full timeline, which, you already have everything that you really need. Although, yeah, I know, I don't really care if you get my passwords, but I don't really have passwords either. I also forgot to untake W that USB search items, search history, browser history, mounted volumes. Yeah, So just don't do those things, okay? So after that, can you write please what to be unchecked? Actually, yes. I'm gonna release a PowerPoint presentation right after, not right after, because I still have to finalize the rules for service. So expect that for to be released by tomorrow, probably. So I feel that is done. IE URLs. Now this is interesting. INH. So IE stands for the IH. I think it's Ethernet. Right. So Edge downloader. So this actually does a lot of things. So if you create a full timeline, although it allows you to actually parse only 10 of those artifacts. So there's that. So let's go back to the FTK because I know that you guys are more comfortable with this. So if you want volume shadow copies, use OS Forensics. If you don't want volume shadow copies, which most of the time you don't really need that, use FTK. FTK allows you to also extract the most useful artifacts on the device, and I'm gonna tell you exactly where they are and how to grab them Um, First of all, let's begin with their root. And from their root, you're gonna export MFT, export these to the analysis, because you need this. This is the master file table that we talked about previously. Also export $I13, because I'm gonna show you why. Because this is a very short and tiny artifact, but if they have connected USB drives, especially FAT32 drives, always export $I13, because that's the only artifact you will have from that USB drive. Also export the log file, MFT mirror, because this is sometimes. Why does it say 2022? There's no way one to MFT Cindy. Because now what you're doing is acquiring evidence. You're gonna parse or analyze these after so that you don't damage the evidence or overwrite something yourself accidentally or do something that you don't really want to do, want to be doing. After that, go to root, go to extend, go to using journal and export the J file. So this is gonna be your journal file, which means that you will not be overwriting files to. Why is there fast? Not because I did a file of like deletion of using journal, but you know what my question is? I don't understand why my MFT, what we did until now, the game here I'm slow today, sorry. We are exporting everything. You can rewatch the video. So we are gonna export the most useful evidence items. So yeah, there's that. You can also extract big map objects. There's also reparse points. Now this is not really that useful because you can also analyze this with system format. So there's that. There's also the metadata. Next, what you need is the init, but you don't really have anything here. Then what you do, you can also access the database of that boot, which I don't know what that really will give you, but go to perflogs. Okay, there's nothing here. That's strange. Okay, go to the system volume information. Yes, this is gonna give you big bad backups, so old traces maybe. There's also volume traces, the database traces. This has nothing in it, so you don't have to actually export this. Look for something that you might find useful in system volume information, because sometimes those are actual files with full of data. Like for example, this one has my user ID of the account. There's also users, so go to users. Here, go to the current user, which you have to also find. And now you have to find the most useful artifacts. In my case, what you'll find is either an application data or update on local. Local is gonna give you an AMD cache. This is useful because as you guys can watch the AMD cache analysis, you can see that in the previous webinars, it is yes, exactly. It is AMD crash dumps, it is AMD dumps, it is the graphic dumps. And the thing is that, yes, and the thing is, even if they use a fileless bypass, this is something that only you guys will know, well, at least, you know, whoever sees the video up to this point. Whenever they use a fileless bypass, even if they use a fileless bypass and they use, for example, Vape Client, that is going to create a dump of Vape Client over here in that TX cache because it is being processed by the graphics card. So everything that has a graphic is that AMD GPU. Yes, I have AMD. I have AMD. There's also an NVIDIA one, which I asked. Yes, I don't know because I never had, or I don't have NVIDIA, but I asked Finis, I think, to test it, and it did work. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure. So in this case, you can also export all of those because some of them, if you notice, are file slacks. Even if they are file slacks, they are quite useful for string searches. So export files, go to your downloads analysis and make a new folder over here. Because files are part of the files. Yes, it is the Slack file. So the placeholders, make a new folder, call this AMD dumps. dumps and save it there. Okay. You can also copy the DX which has less information, but it still might be useful because we'll be analyzing them. There's downloads, analysis, and the dumps. This one is nothing useful as Vulkan. I think this is for Vulkan drivers. We also have the applications, columns, connected devices. This one is where you can extract extract the activities cache from, which is something you should do. Except in my case, I actually have it disabled. So there's that. You can also check the signatures of this connected device platform, but yeah, this doesn't really give you much information. You also have the D3, so the cache, so the graphics cache. This is also useful, by the way. It is very useful. I'm going to show you that, where this is too. Let me open and search everything. There's this cache that also generates traces of those applications. So these folders, you can either go to System32, which saves different caches, or the user level caches. So in this case, let's analyze what those are, right? So the ones that have been executed yesterday. Let's choose the highest size. And yeah, this has not pretty much nothing, because this is, you can't really read this. So just export this, because it might be sometimes very useful. If there is an application that can analyze this, I haven't really found it yet, but there might be an application that can analyze this, and if I do find it, we're going to discuss it in the forensics webinar. In this case, copy the full name to clipboard if you want to access the System32 drive. Well, you can access this by config. Okay, continue. The system profile, continue. Update. Where is it? Here, searches. Where's this thing? Config system profile update a local D3 DS cache. Okay, local D3 DS cache. It is gonna have the same content, but as you can see, this stored different information. So there's also that you should be aware of. So after that, you can also go to, so there's also a history folder, which is useless. Sometimes there is a Windows history path that allows you to view the old versions or the save files of Windows, but that's not something you are. Therefore, there's also Squirrel Temp. This is related to primarily Discord stuff, so don't worry about that. Now, the next thing you do is obviously go to System32, Windows System32. Now, let me see, where is System32? Then you can export registry data, but this time you're gonna export more than just the already viewable registry data, because this time you also export file flags and old versions of it. Now you go to config, okay, its config is over here. So as you can see here, you also have old logs of it. So copy all of this, even if they are deleted, sometimes they still retain the sizes. As you can see, there's too much data over here not to export. Not here either, downloads. Okay, analysis, and again, create another folder, call this registry. So everything is saved in registry. Now the things that you have are the MFD, user journal, and registry. Everything is stored very well. You also have the process memory. So you have basically gathered every information that you could gather. You also have $I13 spaces, but you can also analyze unallocated space if you really want to. Though I would not really recommend. So for example, if you find that the unallocated space file has a header of an executable file, so if this, for example, says PE or MZ, like MZ over here, you can copy the ID and export that, rename it to exe or DLL, but this one is usually useless, although it has a lot of information sometimes. Right, so let's see if we can find anything interesting. Probably not, because as I said, it's useless. So this is going to help you. By the way, Cinnamon Tools actually recovers unallocated space when it reads registry data. So you can read these too. So another thing that you guys can do, which I've never seen anybody do, but I would recommend that you do, dump FTK imager after you have analyzed or loaded everything here. Let me see, is there no update of system information? Okay. Alright, so you can dump this entire thing, go to memory, actually, don't select it, just do FTK imager. This is gonna give you a lot of data. Quite a lot of data. So for example, if you are looking for executable files, or let's just say only paths, okay, paths only. So it's gonna be here. So this gives you some data, some executables that maybe you would not be able to have access to previously. Although, as you can see in this case, it only gives you paths to the files. So maybe it's useful. Maybe, so for example, for .exe files, it is quite useful. It gives you the names of the executables. Some are without paths, some are with paths, like these ones. Right, so it even has some old traces, because it didn't read all of that. But most of them don't really have a path, because most of them don't. And most of them are printed separately without paths, so you can also analyze, you can also use FTK imager for in-depth analysis. So after everything is done, now let's begin the more interesting parts for screen sharing, let's say. Okay, this has finalized the acquisition. You can also uncheck those things. Let's see. Show empty activity types, show results summary. Okay, so you can basically hide those, but you can't really hide the ones that have something. How do we analyze those exported files? You just look at the name, okay, so you have those ones, the exported ones, we're gonna get there. So everything here. Do A, so this is gonna give you, so you have to remove the attributes, so attrib sh on $i30, for example, also remove attributes from J, remove attributes, or you can also just do this icon, it's gonna remove everything from, right, so from all of the files. You also have empty dumps, you also have the registry, which is gonna have more data. So just do attrib sh from everything, and you'll see more data over here. You will see the registry, all the registry data. Okay. That being said, now you have a lot of things to work with. For example, to analyze the $I13, so you can use many different utilities, but I recommend that you actually either use something specifically for $I30 analysis, such as the index ripper, or just stick to the MFT. So MFT analysis also works. So J is using kernel. You can analyze these by the journal extractions. So I'm going to show you everything pretty clearly. Go to analysis, CLS. Okay. We have a lot of data gathered here, which is a lot of cookies even. So which is something you don't really want to do. So never forget to toggle those things off. Yeah. Okay. Let me close this. I want to exit. The next thing you do in the screen share, as a beginner, let's say, is that you have to, before analyzing any of this, start with system info, okay, and other data analysis. So shell recent, because you have not modified anything in shell recent, I have those disabled, but yeah, unless shell recent, analyze the PowerShell, go to back, go to PS redesign, read the history of whatever we have. You also go through the recent items, so it's the same thing. So you can also go to start menu, programs. Those are on startup, for example. Um, and right, so there's more things that you can do, like network shortcuts to jump lists. Yes, you can. I have those disabled, but we have talked about jump lists in previous webinars, and you can also analyze them. You can learn about them from webinars and for starters, behavior analysis, so those course material. So make sure to check them out too. So after that, you analyze that. Start with the system informer. Well, the system informer is very useful. That's very good. Yeah, that's very good. I'm glad that you did, because most people don't. So in system informer, what you're looking for, also use search everything. So you are looking for two things. Now you want to analyze all the files on the device and all the registered files in the process memory, which means that in this case, for example, you want to analyze all executables. Select executable, file, export, go to downloads analysis, and make a new folder called files. So go to those files, and these ones are executables.exe, .text. Go to search, go to compressed. You can also export zip files, archives that they might have if you want to. I don't want to in this case. Go to search everything, go to advanced search, go to a word or phrase in the file, .dll, and you also don't want none of those words. So you can also just do OK, or you can also edit the sizes from here directly. This time we are looking for DLL files that are at least 200 kilobytes large and at least 10 megabytes large. So there are some bypasses that have 25 megabytes or like more than 10 megabytes large DLL files, but 10 usually does the trick. So this is gonna sort it, not content. It's not going to just do the .dll and size. This is 90,000 files, which, that is a lot of DLL files, but still, DLLs. Then you do the same things that I showed you in the previous webinar. So export, so exclude .exe, exclude .dll, do file, do size, 200 kilobytes to 25 megabytes, for example, and you export every file that is not a DLL or an executable. So export all of these as well. No DLL or exe. Name that whatever you want, to be honest. How to exclude the filter that I've just shown you. So you do exclamation mark .exe space exclamation mark .dll. That excludes them from the search. But I'm gonna send you this in case. Exclude. Means exclusion, yes. Exactly, correct. Then what you do is that you do file space extension, so ext space, so that now you have extensionless files. There's an issue. If you want to scan those files, make sure that you do not have these data already exported. So make sure that you don't have MFT, J, $I30 already exported. Because that's also gonna cause to scan those files too. But in this case, also just to limit the sizes. So size to 100 kilobytes to 25 megabytes. That's gonna exclude a lot of the files that we just exported because they are huge files. And in this case, you just do extension less. Now you have all the files on the device that do not have an extension. So there's that. Okay. So another thing that you can do also is make a snapshot or a copy of .evtx files. So these are the event log files. So all of these you can either copy yourself if you want to not add any changes to it. Control C is doing the trick, right? Downloads, analysis, create a new folder, and also can do the event logs. Copy everything here. This is gonna make or create a copy of all of the event log snapshots, all of them. Okay. Now we have something that is static, so nothing is gonna be changed here, nothing is gonna be edited, and you have the acquisition of the system memory that is quite useful. Except in this case, you don't really have. Yeah, it is. Yes, exactly. It is. In this case, you don't really have a rundown, which is all that you really need after that. So after this, go to System Informer and go to the processes that cannot be parsed otherwise. So CSRSS, low bytes is for executables. Go to do. Okay, I don't have access to this. Of course, I don't. You also cannot dump this. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because you don't really have. You don't really have access, nor do I. Can you know you can't? Okay. Then, if CSRSS is not available, that is not an issue, because you can also do search indexer, which is better than CSRSS in my. Low bytes is for executables, high bytes is for any file, so any format, which is what I would use. And do the same thing on those, okay? Do the same thing here for these search, okay? In this case, you are looking for filter regex, and these regex, which only stores or sorts for files. You see, high, all. Yes, exactly. So this works because now you can copy all of the results. All I think also includes. So the reason they separated this, another thing about that I want to tell you. What is this? Yeah. So it's as search includes both system files and normal files. Yeah, that is true, but it is also very useful because when CSRSS doesn't work, especially. So copy all of these, copy result. Because sometimes the bypasses are pasted or stored in system files, which is where this comes in hand. So go to files and create a new folder. Call this paths. Okay, paths. So another thing is, I notice how people create different paths for different processes. That is smart, I have nothing against it, but you can literally just paste all of the paths in one directory and that will work as well. So now you have all of the information that is on the device. So you can continue this on different path parser. Yes, we are gonna be using that. You can also continue analysis, so we also use some of them do, but most of them can't. Because CSRSS requires kernel level drivers to even access or clear. So another thing about that is that, let's say in Explorer, go to Explorer, you should also export everything from here. So you get the point, right? Don't forget this. Also, test this on your device to figure the best processes. Also, check which processes were unable to be parsed by magnet process capture. You can tell that by sorting by file sizes, and the 0 ones means that it was not parsed. So these are the ones that you should dump yourself or parse yourself manually through System Informer. Okay. So just look at those. Okay. So these sevs and some PNG registry, LS. So SASS, idle CSRSS, Defender service, and other. Because magnet process capture was not able to parse those. Yes, you can go through the PID that is over here. Yes. So you can go to System Informer, and let's say, so as I said, so those are the, which ones are the PIDs? I think those ones, okay, yeah, the last ones, 1160. So these ones are the PIDs of those processes. So this one is a service for the services process, which allows you to, just analyze those things you want to for yourself. It's pretty useful, but I can't really access this because I don't have kernel driver on System Informer, which is a shame. So, right, so you should dump all of those, or at least for recognizing SSLs. Yes, exactly why. So you should dump those yourself and at least export the paths that you would want to analyze. Now what comes next is that you can use Path Parser to analyze all of those files, or you can also do something else, which is to use, let me see if I have Path Parser, okay. Or you can go to this and use the kernel live dump tool. This is way better. You can also use this on not only your kernel live dump, but on every process memory. Also, if you're good about kernel live dump, you should also create these yourself. Paths, it's not better per se. You should do both, because the paths are for files. Kernel live dump is for process memory. You got the point, right? So I'm going to show you. So let's say we have the live dump. You should also dump kernel, because why not? Cut user pages, hypervisor, include non-essential ones, compress memory pages. Don't compress that, never do compression. And let me just save these into kernel dump. Nice non-primary analysis. Yes, exactly. So this is gonna be the most secure analysis of memory. I did kernel live dump, okay. Create live dump. I only disable, mostly I can dump that, you know why? Probably because you don't have System Informer as admin or the kernel memory, or sometimes they don't start Windows on debug mode, which means you can't always dump this. So that there's that. What you checked. Everything except for the last one and the second one. So the use storage, dump storage type, capture user pages, capture hypervisor pages, include non-essential hypervisor pages. So this is gonna help you quite a lot. Then you have the tools. I recommend that you guys also check for zombie processes, because sometimes, for example, in the site execution, this is gonna give you some information. So when you go to general, sometimes you will see zombie process. Yes, just watch. So you have this information. This gives you the ID of the process that was started 43 minutes ago, for example, and sometimes this gives you the command lines. You can also check the statistics, so you can check exactly how long it has been up for, but that is not an exact estimation of how long it was up for. And basically you can just check for anything that you can find here. There's also SAC host. We don't know what this host is, except for if we go here. This allows you to see exactly what the process ID was. So sometimes what the parent process ID was. So sometimes you will see exactly. So if you see PowerShell, for example, or if you see, let's do brute force. Actually, let's not do brute force. Let's do NTDLL handles, because these ones are rather more important or interesting. Let's see registry handles. Nothing. Or brute force is going to show you everything. So the point here is, zombie processes, don't worry about what it means. Worry about what it shows you. Zombie processes shows you terminated processes that were in use, but they still have residues on the device. So in this case, we have MSI-exe. This was executed 45 minutes ago, but this process doesn't exist anymore. However, it doesn't have a parent process, which means that this was the main process that has been executed. This won't really help you catch a lot of bypasses, but this is very useful, like actually recent. No, not actually recent. So this is like something. This will help you sometimes detect fileless bypasses. Okay. So in this case, we even have the Timeline Explorer over here, 45 minutes ago, executed. Parent console is runtime broker, parent process is a site host. Okay, this tells you that wherever this process was executed, And you can also check the net assemblies if the process was the net file. In this case, you can also do explorer.exe, change this. This doesn't have a parent process because it is the only original process. And this also shows you the performance. So specifically look for red highlights and gray highlights, because those are the most important processes that you would really need. But also keep it on brute force so that maybe you see cheats or bypasses displaying over here. So it's very useful, very useful. Another thing that you can do is go to tools, and you can also check for the system and NTFs, reparse points, object identifiers, and security descriptors. Reparse points are for files folders, object identifiers for files, so applications or text files or whatever. So you can export this, scan this as well, or analyze these yourself. Object ID change, yes. So that's useful. So sometimes you'll be able to see them here. Although this doesn't really, so object identifier, this doesn't really give you much. So as you can see, the object identifier, sometimes you see those on registry extractions, and sometimes you see that C file or C drive has this ID, right? So this ID. What you can do with that is that you can come to NTF's object identifiers and specifically look for that object identifier, which will show you exactly what that file was. So if you ever get confused when you see those types of numbers, sometimes they are numbers of drives, and say they are numbers of USB drives especially. So there's that. You can also do the resource monitor, which is for processes. And this is not really useful. However, if you, for example, have JavaWs or Minecraft itself, let me actually show you what I mean by opening AutoClicker, if I have it. No, I don't. Okay, test subject, okay, we open this. Now, because this is a resource monitor, it is going to show you all the files that are over here, or the processes that have been executed. Yeah, not the autopsy scan. So we have the test subject over here. So let's imagine that this is Minecraft. Select this, so highlight it, highlight the image. So when you unroll all of those, it's gonna give you more information about the file. For example, the network access of the file. Yeah, well, imagine that it is Minecraft, I know, yeah. Right, so there's also network and there's also memory. This also shows you how much memory it used. And it also shows you the files that it has been using or has used. So in this case, if this is Minecraft, sometimes this will help you detect injected files that are still in the memory of this and are internally destructed. Another thing that you should do is also go to memory. So it shows you the memory of the file instead. You can also go to the disk image. We don't really have that. You can also go to the CPU, which is going to show you associated modules. I know what that is. So for example, this is all memory. Yes, exactly. So it has to be running. So the file has to be running. But you can basically deconstruct the, let's say if this is JavaW, so Minecraft itself, you can read a lot of information about it. So in this case, associated handles, which handles are associated. Yes, it is. And you also see all the DLL files that it has called or it relies on, or where exactly it was executed from. So it's a very useful tool. And it is on Windows too. So it is a Windows tool itself. So we have the kernel lifetime tool. Let's go to analysis. And you can also select yourself where exactly the files are. So let's do kernel lifetime tool. And you can also specifically add your own custom keyword sets. So you know how to use this, just read the page. Minecraft also crashes and desk type 5 and no, Minecraft doesn't crash it. So you can also go to, in this case, we don't really want sets is your search. So this is explained in the main page here, but I'm gonna show you. So let's do y, and we can add the string. So for example, we want to do, yeah, exactly. So we want to, in this case, let's say we want to look for fileless malware 123.4.txt. Do this. There are so 3 lines, and then you are looking for the string, like you are looking in a process memory. So in this case, we are looking for invoke web request. Okay, so enter again, and this is gonna ask you to provide a full path to the dump file, which is what you can do. Either specify the kernel dump itself, or specify any other dump. For example, specify the magnet process capture dumps. So in this case, let's just do the text input host or other SVC hosts or whatever you want in this case, right? So let's just do in this case, our case, let's do text input host. So let's just do this. We specify the file path. If it has spaces, listen. So if it has spaces, make sure you turn them into brackets, paste them into brackets. It has to be a dump, yes, it is a DMP file. It has to be any file. Actually, this works with any file, but it is primarily meant for, so it is meant for memory analysis. So this is a memory analysis tool, not only a kernel live dump tool. So specify that, press enter, and it's gonna give you everything that it found. So when press enter, you can exit this, or you can go to the folder itself, analysis, and we have go to the directory where the file was exported. Yeah, so if it is, yeah, okay. Where are the results? Okay, the results are in the directory where the current live dump tool is itself. So go to results, and this shows you the file as executions. And you can just look for them yourself. Registry key deletions, completely hidden devices. No thanks. Replacing clean replacements of files, for example. Right, so there's that. Okay, so it's very useful. Depends on the file that you provide. Everything you can do that yourself. So another thing that you guys can do, actually, is that when you have I should search each dump. You can select any dump that you want, and you can select. It depends. I would personally just specify registry, for example, memory compression, search indexer, Explorer service, or event logs. So it depends on what you want. Which files recommend adding to the kernel lifetime? First of all, kernel lifetime itself, so the kernel dump itself. Second of all, I recommend giving these, where is it? Giving these the highest bytes that you can find. So widgets, text input host, Explorer itself as well works. And yeah, so just by the file size, so Explorer itself works, text input host works, start menu, and many other things basically. DWM is not really just ramdump. Okay, yeah, ramdump also works. So you can specify ramdump itself too, and you can do it like that. Now about the file analysis, another thing you guys can do, which I'm not sure how much you guys would want to do that, but you can use, so for example, if you have Yara rules that you have designed for memory analysis, is scan this folder like you would scan this with path parser. So just a folder itself, export these as processes, and you can scan that this way as well. So you can use the path parser itself. Go to the files, go to CMD paths parser. I don't really have that application anymore, it seems. But okay, you get the point. You can use that on any of those TXT files, and you will find the most unsigned files or suspicious files. We covered that in the previous webinar, so you guys should watch that one instead of me, wasting your time on this once again. So just watch the previous webinar. Now about the exported data. First of all, you of course need for the J file, so the user journal, and MFT, you need MFT CMD, which basically let's just copy this here. Not there. Okay, this one is not in downloads here. Go to downloads, CLS, MFT CMD itself. Specify the file that you want to analyze. So in this case, it has to be either .mft, so MFT itself, or you can also specify the J file itself. Okay, so we also need CSV, and we need the MFT CMD DLO. MFT CMD DLO. Copy this in the same directory as this. So you can also analyze user journal with this. Right, so there's a different command that it uses. Okay, let's just do MFT. And I think you can just do user journal J. I forgot how you do the MFT journal extraction, but you get the point, right? And we also need what? Runtime config. Okay, Jesus Christ. Since when did they turn MFT into a horrible tool? I mean, you're supposed to work with just the executable itself, but you got the point. Let's see if the J works. Yeah, okay, now it works. We just needed the runtime config as well. So this can analyze the user journal. This can analyze, in seconds by the way, MFT, CSV, and save the MFT there as well. And you can also analyze this MFT with, you can also analyze many other things. And there's also the analysis of log file, exports MFT by itself, right? Yes. It does actually. So you can either export the MFT itself and scan it this way. But the thing is, the reason I usually export MFT is because you guys can actually, so this also works. But the reason I export MFT itself is that you guys can use bstrings or a strings application to look for analysis like maybe malware scans and stuff like that. Or you can also use the Zimmerman tools, MFT Explorer GUI. So this one is a, where is it? Yeah, so it also has a graphical MFT viewer. So you can paste the MFT here, although this takes time. This is actually this is very useful, but also you should not use this on low-end computers. Like my laptop, for example, has issues with this, because as you can see, this is a timeless format for MFT. Yes, exactly. And it's even better. It's even better than Timeline Explorer because it allows you to do a lot of things, to be honest with you. But the issue is, it takes resources of the device, and you really need something good, a good computer for this to properly work. So I'm gonna show you that how likely it is, but yeah, you get the point. So you have the MFT Explorer. You put the MFT here, or just select with load MFT, because you also need to run these as. Oh, one second. By the way, I'm gonna be really back. Okay. So basically, you will specify the MFT itself. Where is it? Okay, MFT. And that allows you to actually view this. It also allows you to view, it gives you more information, but the most relevant information is already, in the CSV that you can also create. For example, this one has a properties, so possible timestamp, is directory, has ads, is copied, and stuff like that. You get the point. But yeah, importing the data here is time consuming. But if it is a great computer of a user, you should definitely also check this. Check this one about the MFT dumps. These ones are something you can read yourself, right? But the paths to files are separated. Or you can also use System Informer to analyze its the driver or the graphics card itself. We covered that in a previous webinar. Okay. So I recommend that if there is something that has possible timestamping, okay, it is possible timestamping, you have to verify that with the user journal as well. And I think the save and event logs is gonna help you, but yeah, usually that's not a ban. But yeah, timestamping is not something that should happen a lot on the device. If it has basic info change, you should ban for it. Yes, you can. You can ban for interferences. If you can verify that, but verifying that requires knowledge, which we explain in the MFT video. When it comes to these, it's actually, you have to use a third-party tool to analyze that. Otherwise, it's gonna, it's very hard to do that. And as you guys can see, this is a very consuming or energy-consuming tool. If sometimes basing a change on a file, no. So let me end these. But don't worry about that, because we're gonna have a user journal. Don't worry, it's okay. We're gonna have a separate webinar on user journal, like we had with MFT. That's what will explain a lot of things to you. Because user journal is that's not something I can just tell you. Because the thing is that you actually need experience to understand how user journal works. I'm gonna give you that experience that I have, then it is up to you to advance that knowledge. Yes, there's not much about that, about user journal. Okay. So let's do this, let's say, analysis. So everything else you see here can be analyzed with the CSV itself. So like the timeline explorer, everything has been exported, parsed, and those ones, the MFT mirror and log file, can be checked by log to CSV. So that's another utility, log to CSV. So this is a useful tool, for example, Wizard. So you have to find a great tool, because this one, for example, is what the fuck was that? Log file to CSV. Right, you get the point, right? So you need a third-party tool. There is a tool in Screenshot community that does this, by the way. It's called log to CSV. And yeah, that's gonna help you. There's also a registry, which you have to paste all of this in Registry Explorer. So Registry Explorer. So we're gonna go to here. We're gonna extract all. So you have to paste everything. What was the name of what? It was logged to CSV. It is logged to CSV. Or you can actually find that the name of the channel was Essential Node 2. Okay, so Essential Node 2 was the name of the file. Because I told about that to Rancio myself when I first arrived to the community, and then we published that. So file recovery not really necessary if we don't have advertising. Yes, exactly. If you can prove that the deleted file was a cheat or something like a malware, then recovering it might actually lose you some evidence material. So, for example, they overwrite the artifacts and stuff like that. So in this case, let's run the Registry Explorer, and we just have to paste everything in here too. So we're also gonna have analysis of Registry Explorer as a separate webinar, because this is a very huge utility that, I can't really explain that in under 1 hour. So the next thing you do here is, instead of doing the live acquisition, file, go to load Hive. So instead of doing this, instead of doing the live system analysis, which, okay, I should run this as admin. Wait. Okay, where do I have this? I ran through of them, okay. But you have to run this as admin, so keep that one in mind. So load the data, and I'm gonna show you what exactly you can do in Registry Explorer that is useful, just in case you guys wonder about that. Right, so you do file, load Hive, and you specify the hives that we have just exported. Thing is that I think that this still actually analyzes or loads everything. So for example, there are 30 hives. You can clean those hives. There's a tool that does that, but just paste everything that you have, okay? Default data 30 hive. So you can replay transaction logs and select everything. So you also need the transaction logs themselves too. Okay, blah blah blah. Most of those are dirty hives because they are recovery hives. Dirty hives, yes, because they are corrupted hives because we recovered them. So there's that. That's why. So this gives you a lot of things. As you can see, the same things. Then after things, you can do live system analysis and load everything normally, because you will have deleted hives that maybe you might have missed, and those that you are able to load. So let's see the unassociated files. This gives you a list, unassociated deleted records. So those ones give you the deletion of hives. So there's that. Yeah. So we're gonna cover everything in a different webinar because it's Registry Explorer. So after all that, so you have analyzed registry. Let's say you analyze registry. You then also analyze magnet process capture. So you analyze processes. You also analyze the MFT. You analyze the US internal. You have the registry info where. Seriously. In FTK measure. So after we are done with the webinar, you can watch that. And follow it, because I can't do that one more time. It takes time. Then what you can do? No, it's okay. It's just FTK measure is where you would usually gather those. But another suggestion about it to appear on those hives. Yes, I see that some of you have not really read my free guide, which is the merge guide. It has a lot of information, by the way. I'm just going to tell you. It has more information that you would. And then we have the empty dumps. So as we said, you can pass those yourselves, or you can use System Informer. With all that, so this will take you at least 1 hour. Okay. It will take you at least 1 hour and 20 minutes to finalize analyzing everything on the device. The only thing left is the event logs, which we're gonna have a separate webinar on. But this is for OS forensics. You can use OS forensics to analyze this, and all of these processes, right, will only take you 1 hour and 20 minutes, or even on FTD image also, right? Yes, you can do that if you want to. Oh, you mean a separate webinar on this? Yes, okay. But it won't be for digital forensics, it will be just for extended course, because this one, it's not really that of an important tool. It's just a, memory reader. With that being said, today's webinar is also over. I hope that you guys understood exactly. So I hope that you guys understood the general process of finding malware or bypasses or whatever on the file system. And I also hope that you guys learned something new from this webinar. So I'm going to compile order of what it is exactly, so that was the whole point of this.